The garden began with one broken person and one empty yard. On the edge of a quiet town, behind a small house with peeling paint, a woman named Rosa stood in the doorway and stared at the patch of hard, tired soil behind her home. It matched the way she felt inside. Her heart was heavy from a loss she could not fix. Laughter from other houses sounded far away, like it belonged to another world. One evening, unable to sit with her thoughts any longer, she walked outside, picked up an old rusty shovel, and stabbed it into the ground. The earth resisted at first, dry and compact, but slowly, clump by clump, it began to break. Dirt stuck under her nails. Her arms ached. Tears fell onto the soil like small drops of unexpected rain. "This is useless," she muttered. "Nothing beautiful can grow here. Not in this yard, not in my life." Gentle voice spoke from the fence. "I thought the same," said her neighbor, an older man with kind eyes. "But sometimes the ground just needs someone patient enough to keep turning it." Rosa wiped her face with her sleeve. "And what if the person is just as tired as the soil?" she asked softly. "Then both can heal together," he replied. He handed her a small packet of seeds. The drawing on the front showed simple wildflowers. "Start with these," he said. They do not ask for perfection. Just a little space, a little water, and a little faith. The next day, she marked out a small corner of the yard and cleared away the weeds. Her hands were clumsy. The rows were not straight. She dropped some seeds too close and others too far. Still, she covered them with soil and whispered, "I don't know how to do this, but I will show up." For many days, nothing seemed to happen. She still woke up sad. The ache in her chest did not disappear. But each afternoon, she walked outside, watered the quiet ground, and stood there for a few minutes, listening to the breeze move through the empty yard. The soil did not answer, but it did not reject her either. It simply waited. One morning, as she stepped out with her old watering can, something tiny caught her eye. A small green tip pushed through the brown earth. Then another, then another. Her breath caught. They were so fragile, she almost did not dare to touch them. Her neighbor waved from the fence. "See?" he called. The ground was not hopeless. It was only waiting. Rosa knelt and studied the tiny leaves. For the first time in a long while, her chest felt a little less heavy. The pain was still there, but now it had company. A thin line of hope. Word traveled quietly through the neighborhood. A friend who had gone through a painful divorce came over to help pull weeds. A teenager who had failed exams and felt like a failure offered to paint a small wooden sign. An elderly woman who missed her late husband brought a bag of old clay pots, saying, "Maybe your flowers would like new homes." Without planning it, the empty yard began to fill with people who were also carrying invisible cracks. They did not sit in a circle and share dramatic speeches. They talked about soil, water, sunlight, and which plants liked the shade. They laughed when the dog dug up a corner by accident. They groaned when slugs ate a row of tiny sprouts. Between jokes and simple tasks, pieces of their stories slipped out. A lost job, a silent house, an abandoned dream. The garden listened and said nothing, but it kept growing. As weeks turned into months, color spread across the yard. First came small white blossoms, then pink, yellow, and deep purple. Bees buzzed lazily among the flowers. Butterflies floated like quiet guests. Children wandered in, asking if they could water something. Someone left a bench by the fence. Someone else brought a string of lights and hung them between two poles so the garden would not disappear when the sun went down. The people who came were not magically healed. Their problems did not vanish. A tease, but each time they dug, watered, planted, or trimmed, they made a tiny choice to move instead of stay stuck. The garden became a place where hearts could rest without needing to be fixed first. A place where no one was asked to smile on command. One evening, a young man arrived and stayed at the edge, not stepping inside. His shoulders were hunched. His eyes were red. He watched in silence as Rosa pressed a new plant into the soil, her hands slow and steady. She looked up and gave him a small wave. "You can help if you like," she said, "or you can just sit. Both are allowed here." He nodded and walked in. For the first few days, he only sat on the bench, staring at the ground. On the fourth day, he quietly picked up a small trowel and began to dig beside her, saying nothing. That was enough. The soil accepted his shaking hands the same way it had accepted hers. Over time, the town began to call it the Healing Garden, but no sign ever used that name. The wooden board the teenager had painted simply said, "Welcome. You can grow here." The flowers were beautiful, but the real miracle was hidden in the people who planted them. Hands that once felt too weak, now steady enough to help something live. Rosa still had days when sadness returned like a cold wind. On those mornings, she would go out and gently touch the leaves, breathe in the scent of the soil, and remind herself, "I also grew here. I am still growing." Her heart was not perfectly repaired, but it was no longer empty. It was rooted. If your heart feels cracked or tired, imagine there is a small piece of ground inside you, waiting. It does not need perfect plans or instant joy. It needs one tiny action, then another, a message sent, a walk taken, a page written, a friend called. You do not have to fix everything today. You only have to keep planting small seeds of care until one day you look back and see that something strong and living has grown where you once saw only empty soil.